November, today the 18th of November 2022, at 5 p.m. Amba time. We're supposed to, but this is a few minutes to 5 p.m. Amba time in Ambazonia. And I'm coming in here to call your attention that we'll have one of the person that you're supposed to call an elite in the studios with us today, in the person of Barrister Timothy, and he will be bringing to us some very important information for every Ambazonia to know. So by this, I am calling on all of you who are connected to quickly send out this information for people to come in and hear directly from him, because I don't want somebody to call and be saying, oh, I came in late. Remember, this is Ambazonia, number 55 nation of Africa, and we are asking United Nations to give our seat. We are not begging them, we are asking them to give our seat in the UN, because it is our legal right as a nation. I know this is our Amba history, and we all know what transpired. So I would like you to just listen to this. The first thing I want to do before I greet all of you is to let you know that our Father, who is God Almighty, He knows your name, that you are Ambazonia and not La République du Cameroon. Just listen to this.
Papa, now you love me so, and you know my name. I give you glory, Abba Father. You know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. You know my name, oh Daddy, yeah. You know me, you know my name. I can see your hand in my life. Lord, I see your love upon me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. I dey hear your voice in my heart. Lord, I feel your love over me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the below. Abba Father, you know my name. Papa, you know me. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yeah, yeah. Jesus, your love, now oh. My master, your kindness, now wonder oh. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. Jesus, you said I be a picking, no. Jesus, you said your love will cover me. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I look around, now you are the pillow. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, yeah. You know me, you know my name. Papa, you know my name.
Thank you very much, Abba Father. You know my name. Yes, this is to tell us that our Father knows the name of Ambazonia. And as I told you, get ready. We are receiving in the studios this evening for the people of Ambazonia, our beloved and most welcome Barrister Timothy, who will be telling us some of our history, and we will stand by it. Remember, you are Ambazonia, number 55 country for Africa now. That is your new name. Tell everybody, sing it everywhere, and please, I'm waiting on you to invite at least 5 people. Barrister Timothy is already in the house, but before I bring him in, I want to still let you know that he reigns, and he is reigning, and Ambazonia is reigning. Ambazonians, please, I want to still let you know that get into your Facebook, YouTube, and share to different people. I know it's not yet 5 p.m., and so some of you are still waiting for 5 p.m. But I know that if you start telling the other people, hey, our Amba history is on, many will come in before the 5 p.m. because I don't want Barrister to say anything that you will not hear. So before we tell you how Ambazonia is reigning, and to assure you of the presence of Barrister, let me bring him in to say hello to you, and then we get a pause of music before he can come up and take up the microphone for our history today. Ambazonians, listen. When we come into these studios of the ABC, our first and important message is to educate you on what you should know that you did not know. Yesterday, I had the opportunity of listening to Pa Michael Azefo, who told us the story of Cass Bambili. I was really shocked at the wickedness of La République du Cameroon. Very wicked. And so for the past 60 years with this torture, anybody who is advocating that we should have any link in any way with these people, that person, like I said this morning, or like the historian, Brother Tse, he said this morning that most of these people have been brainwashed. Not only brainwashed, there is a spiritual, demonic, hypnotic power that comes upon these our people, who yesterday were talking very well, but today they are talking a different language. Let Barrister greet us. We'll listen to a piece of music before we go. Welcome into the studios of ABC on our Amba history, Barrister, and greet your people who are very much anxious to listen to you once again. It's always a pleasure having you in ABC.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for having me. And thank the viewers, Ambazonians in particular, and the world at large. What I'm trying to give here is purely educational, and we can learn from it. The world can learn from it. Anybody interested in knowledge can learn from it. What I will give out is not personal opinion. No, there are historical facts and the law. If someone disputes with me, he or she is at liberty to come out with contrary facts and justify why I am wrong. So this is purely educational because of the confusion that seems to be cropping up everywhere where we go and write out pieces of paper left and right. So thank you again for having me. I'm sure if everybody is not here, this thing will record it for posterity, for people to look at it later on in their lives, and the struggle or after the struggle. That in essence why I'm here, trying to give us some of these basic explanations. Thank you once more, and at your disposal. I don't know whether there's room for people to ask questions. If there is, I'll be very happy to give the answers to the ones that I'm able to. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yes, our telephone number is right here on the screen. As soon as he starts talking, we'll open the lines for you to ask your questions, and he will answer the questions. There is a lot of misinformation, and we want to let you know that Barrister Timothy is our legal person, not only for Ambazonia, but he is a practicing legal person where he is right now, not only for Ambazonians, but for other people around the world. Now, his legal studies are not limited to only us Africa. It's actually international. And so we are having here somebody who is not a joker, who is not a playboy, somebody whom you can trust and listen the truth from him. Looking at his face, you will know that he is not a small boy of yesterday. He knows our Amba history from the days of West Cameroon to where we are actually today. So he knows so much about our history. And like I told you, we will be getting a lot from him today. So invite your friends. Now it's about 8 minutes to 5 p.m. in Ambazonia. And I came in this early so as to make this publicity that Barrister Timothy is in the house. And for that reason, you can come in. Let's hear our brother tell us how Ambazonia is reigning, how he reigns.
This time, now Jesus the reign. Jesus the reign.
Jesus is reigning, Ambazonia is reigning. It's to the hour of 5 p.m. in Ambazonia. In the next 4 minutes, I will be bringing in Barrister team to go ahead and talk to us about what is presently going on and the games and the tricks that we have told you and we have been telling you that the Republic has been playing time immemorial. So he uses the same methods, and in this 21st century, some of the methods have expired, but they have used other means to coerce people. And I want to let you know that many people don't believe in demonic powers because they believe that there is God. But I want to let you know there is a demonic power. Recently, I have actually called and verified, and it is true, that a young girl in Bonaberi, in La République du Cameroon, headquarters of demons and demonic activities, died by picking 100 CFA La République colonial money on the streets, buying whether gâteau or whatever for 50 La République CFA franc and eating it. When she got to school, her back was so heavy that the teachers could not help her remove it from her back. The long story short is that finally, when they succeeded to bring the parents and they removed the bag, the girl died. I saw the coffin in the social media. I saw other school children weeping around that situation, that little girl. I saw the little girl lying motionless in the box. And that is the story we are hearing. Now, if that is true, and which of course I've verified, some people call it superstition. I don't want to believe that superstition, because I will not believe that so many Ambazonians who were fighting and telling La République that what come what may, we will not for any reason go through this torture in your hands. And we were backing them up and standing behind them to take us to Boya. Suddenly, they made a U-turn and they're talking a language that we cannot understand. This is very true. If La République has done the same thing with the money that some of these people have received by proxy or by direct contact, then that demonic spirit is actually working and working on those who have decided to go with Langa. Because if that child picked that money, did not spend it, as we were going to school, they used to tell us, if you pick 10 francs, please don't use it. Either leave it there or give it to your father and so on. We were told that because they knew that there is the power of God and there is the power of the devil. And you cannot eat where you have not planted. That is why the word of God says that he who does not walk should not eat. But if you go to take and eat where you have not planted, such things can happen. Because the devil's apple has a lot of worms that you cannot see, but they are walking. So I want to tell Ambazonians that many of our Ambazonian uncles, brothers, elites have taken of the forbidden fruit from the République du Cameroon, and that is why today they are talking a different language to put us back in bondage. But thank God that before they came, there was God, and we are standing on the side of God, who is a God of justice. Every church person who stands on the side of justice before talking about peace is of God. But every religious person who stands on the side of peace, putting away justice, that person is as religious as the devil who quoted the Bible to Jesus and said, it is written, you will fall down and angels will carry you up. But you quoted it upside down. So Ambazonians, let's get up and be wise and do that which is necessary. Now, I told you there is somebody who has a story to tell, and when he tells this story very briefly, Barrister will come in and take us from there, and we will write on. Brother, you say you have a story. Okay, tell us that story as we get ready.
I have a story to tell the world. I have a story to tell the world. I was long forgotten in sin. Tradition took me, the world swallowed me. Have you met him? And where is he? After many words of argument all day, I saw my sin, I was ashamed. I surrender to the Savior, I surrender to the Redeemer. What about you? He's calling you. What about you? Jesus is calling you. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Sing and give glory to the Most High God. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. The Rock of Ages. He reigns, he reigns, he reigns. He reigns, he reigns, he reigns. Many years I've gone, I'm a new man. Many years I've gone, I'm a free man. I turn around and say thank you. I say thank you. Many years I've gone, I'm a new man. Many years I've gone, I'm a free man. I turn around and say thank you. I say thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend, for that assurance. I want to tell all the Ambazonian people and those who are listening to us on this ABC that your confusion can be solved and you can come out and talk the way this gentleman is talking. It is time we get Barrister Timothy come into the studios. Please, those of you who are already on, share it, tell people, invite people. There is something very important that he will have to tell us today. Barrister, welcome back into the studios of ABC, and especially on this program of our Amba history. We know that there are very few seasoned Ambazonians like you who are holding fast and still standing after seeing the atrocity of La République du Cameroon for the past more than 60 years, when gradually they came in like erosion and they were eating our land, just like the scientific discovery that a frog was metamorphosing, changing as water was being boiled at a very low degree. The frog was changing its temperature until it was boiled to death. Ambazonians were believing that La République people were people whom we can gradually help and then make them come to the senses of honest people. And today, you can tell the story more than just some of us who read the history and some of us who got a figment of what was actually happening in Ambazonia. Now, can you tell us, Barrister, Resolution 1349 from the United Nations that made La République du Cameroon to have their independence, although they are not independent. Resolution 1608 from the same United Nations that made us the former British Southern Cameroons, West Cameroon, to have our independence. Now, these two resolutions for two different people, could it be that one of the resolutions was abrogated, and then we were fused into La République, that some of our cousins who are learned men with doctorate degrees, master's degree, divinity degrees, and all kinds of degrees attached to their names are now telling us that we are one and we're one with La Republic of Cameroon, or we should get back to La Republic of Cameroon. Tell us a little bit of this history. Over to you, sir.
Again, thank you. And for the record, see, we have comrades, citizens who have PhDs in all these things, who are professors, who have studied all these laws and the United Nations, who are people with expertise. I'm not one of them. I'm not a professor. I don't have a PhD in these things. My highest academic qualifications as far as this is concerned is that, for the record, I only hold an LLM obtained from the Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, and an LLM in comparative international law. So nobody should make a mistake to call me professor or doctor. That said, to your question, now resolutions of the United Nations remain what they are. They can only be amended by subsequent resolutions. You don't just wake up and say, well, that did not happen, because they are all documented. You can get them out of the records from the day the United Nations was created. The records are kept there. So what you don't like is not what you like. If you don't like it, it is there. So 1608 is there. It cannot be amended anywhere. The resolution giving Republic independence is there. It cannot be amended anywhere. So I don't need to go interpreting it. Those who want to interpret can go on, but the documents are there. They speak for themselves. And so that is not going to waste our time here. If I'm here today, it is because, you see, this issue of referendum has become a sing-song from us. And as far as the referendum is concerned, my problem is most of us who support that nonsense, I call it nonsense for the record, at this stage, might be committing political suicide. We're committing political suicide by talking referendum now. And I've chosen to address it because we have written documents about those things, some of which we purport to send to the United Nations and international organizations. It is important for us to understand legally what those things mean and practically what should be done. That is why I am here. And so we should, I come here with the understanding that I think later today, we have the horizon coming up. And I saw in their program they are going to handle the referendum issue. I'm not trying to undermine what they will come and say, but I think that what I say here might either complement what they will say, or what they will come and say would complement what I'm saying. So don't underestimate anybody, but I hope my reaction will go to educate some of us who do not know and clarify those who knew and misunderstood. That's the objective. Again, United resolutions, UN resolutions speak for themselves. They are written in all the UN languages. 1608, whatever resolution, it is only amended by another one. So, the resolution talking about our independence 1608 is there. You don't need to ask Paul Biya, President Biden, the president of Ukraine, the president of Russia to interpret it for you. No, anybody can take it. If you don't know how to read it, go download it. It is online. Read in your own language, Japanese, Chinese, English, whatever thing you want to. It's written there in black and white. So we don't need to waste time debating on that. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you so much. Now, Barrister, you are very, very conversant, and you know that in 1961, when our independence was due, there was a game plan that we should unite with La Republic of Cameroon and then make a big federation, which was already at that time ringing bells in Africa. The only bilingual country in Africa was called Cameroon. And that was because of we, the southern Cameroonians, who were joined to French Cameroon to form that kind of a trial. Now, we went in there without war. We went in there without being forced. Just like we left the Inugo House of Chiefs quietly without any gunshot and without harassing anybody. Now we have joined La Republic, and we are told that Ahijo declared openly in the United Nations that we were not going to be second-class citizens of that nation. But from how things have evolved up till now, there was a referendum that made it for us to become independent. There were 64 votes to the balance that was not positive, whether they were absent or they voted for a no. Now 64 already gave us a tick to go, and we went in to get our independence, and this kind of game was played. Now, do you think that after experiment for more than 60 years, and we are coming up with this report of torture and mistreatment and deprivation and annexation, assimilation, and everything in this 21st century, do you think it is very comely that we will be forced to stay with La République du Cameroon again after we have discovered and come out and seen that La République has refused to change over the years? Over to you.
Well, I will take over answering your question, then go back. See, I said sometime last week that there's no United Nations provision that if you go into a union, you cannot leave the union. That does not exist. From our own perspective, we believe in the majority that the so-called union, if there was even anyone, has been a failure. Given what is going on now, it has been a failure. And therefore, we are free to walk out of it. How we walk out of it is the issue. And before you get that, I doubt if there was a union. But let us go to how it happened. What happened? Again, I said I was addressing this thing purely on the perspective of the so-called referendum. If we went into a union, it was based on the plebiscite of 1961, 11 February. Many people don't know that a plebiscite is also called a referendum. It was a referendum. It was a referendum. And I say this specifically in reference to what I saw Christian write and put out there. It was a referendum. But let us go to how and why a referendum. If you see Resolution 1352, that laid out the referendum, the plebiscite, call it referendum, in 1959, that we were supposed to express our wish whether we will get independent by joining Nigeria or by joining Cameroon. How did it happen? 1352 resolution said that the administering authority should organize a plebiscite with the supervision of the United Nations for us to determine whether we want to go to Nigeria or want to join French-speaking Cameroon. The important thing here is who was to organize the plebiscite or that referendum? The administering authority. Was it organized? Yes. By who? It was not organized by the administrative authority. It was organized by the West Cameroon, the Southern Cameroon government. What does that mean? Yes, technically call it the administrative authority because the institutions we set up there were under the administration of Great Britain, of UK. But what did it mean? To organize a referendum, a plebiscite, means having a voter register, people who will vote, putting up polling stations where they will vote, and making the officials, those who will count the vote. Were all these things there? Yes. They were put there by who? They were put there by the Southern Cameroon government. Because we already had a voter roll. We had voted for the government of Foncha. We had voted for the government of Ndele. So what a voter register right there. What polling stations that were used to vote Foncha or Ndele down the road in 1959 and 1958 and 1957. What those things set in place that were put in place by the Southern Cameroon government, at least under the authority of the UK. So the UK can say we technically set up those things. Was it supervised by the United Nations? Yes. The United Nations appointed a plebiscite commissioner in the name of Jalal Abdul. He was an Iranian diplomat. He came to Boya, but he was in Boya for less than 6 months to oversee the plebiscite for southern Cameroon and northern Cameroon. What was his role? His role was simply to collect the data, get the results that came from Bamenda, get the results that came from Manfu, wherever the people voted, and compile it, get a report to see where there was fair, where somebody was fighting, where was cheating, and send a report. That's what he did. That's why Resolution 1608 in the introduction says, after having examined the report of the plebiscite commissioner, they concluded that the election was fair. We didn't dispute that. So that's important, because by the time you ask for a referendum, you must know who is going to organize it. If you're asking for a referendum, referendum, without knowing who is going to organize it, you're fooling yourself. If you're asking for a UN supervised election, referendum, whatever thing you call it, without the UN being involved, you're wasting your time. The UN had passed in our own case in 1959 that the UN would supervise the election. That was a United Nations resolution. That was a UN General Assembly resolution. So the UN was already involved. They were asked to be involved in that plebiscite. That's the basis on which they sent in a plebiscite commissioner in the name of Jalal Abdul to come to Boya. So let us get this clear. We are fond of writing petitions, writing letters left and right, and copying the Secretary General of the United Nations. You can write 1,000,000 letters and copy to the Secretary General of the United Nations. It will go nowhere. The Secretary General of the United Nations is the chief of the Secretariat. He can visit Cameroon,
He's
he can
not the
visit
owner.
Nigeria. Yeah, he can visit Cameroon, he can visit anywhere in the world. But what he does is to write a report and send it to members and send it to the right organ, General Assembly, Security Council, and members will act on it. He's an employee. He's elected by members of the of the United Nations. So that is what it happened. Don't just write it and say, I'm copying the Secretary General. He will do it. You can write 1,000,000 letters. He will not act on it until the general body, his employer, his boss, gives instructions for them to act. And they can only give instructions by some type of resolutions. So sending those things left and right, it doesn't work. So again, we had a plebiscite in 1961. A plebiscite can be called a referendum. But the structures were in place for that referendum to take place, for that plebiscite to take place. There was a government in West Cameroon that set up the voter roll, that set up polling stations before the plebiscite. The UN representative did not come and set up these things. No. So that is that. Let us have that clear in our mind. That's how a plebiscite, anyone, is organized. So there are different types of plebiscites or referenda that you can talk about. They are organized differently. Again, when I read what Anu wrote there, I will take the examples he gave. He quoted, give us the referendum the style of Scotland. Good idea. Give us a referendum the style of Quebec. Good idea. Give us a referendum the style of South Sudan and East Timor. Those are the 4 examples he gave. But none of these 4 examples has any similarity to us. Nothing. So we just deceive ourselves knowingly or unknowingly. Let me take one at a time. The Scottish referendum was never organized by the United Nations. It was not even organized by Her Majesty's government in England. It was organized by the Scottish Parliament, Scottish government. They have, in fact, Scotland is an autonomous region with the parliament in the UK. They have a parliament there. They organized the referendum for Scotland, even though it was approved by the House of Commons in England. But the Scottish referendum was organized essentially by the Scottish Parliament. They laid out who will vote. Just our own case of Southern Cameroon in the plebiscite, who was going to vote? They put out the people who would vote. The Scottish Parliament, in this case of the Scottish election, they knew who would vote. They allowed, for example, all members of the European Union resident in Scotland to vote. They allowed all Commonwealth citizens living in Scotland to vote. What was the question? Will Scotland want to get independence or not? And they voted no. The United Nations was not involved. And that was the end of the matter. Is that thing similar to our own case? Zero. Zero in two things. We are not looking for a referendum to be organized by Yaoundé. We don't have the capacity to organize a referendum by ourselves now. We don't have a parliament. We don't have people sitting in Boya to draw up the electoral register. Who is going to vote? We don't even know. So what you're asking us a referendum in Southern Cameroon, British Southern Cameroon and Amazonia, is nothing similar to Scotland. Zero similarity. Those who rather think, if you have any contrary view, challenge me with this. Then we go to Quebec. The Quebec thing is almost similar to the Scottish because Quebec is an independent province in Canada. They have a parliament. The Quebecois parliament organized the plebiscite for Quebec's independence. It was not even approved by Ottawa. It was not even approved by them. They organized it themselves, choose the voters, polling stations, and everything that goes with it. And then they organized the plebiscite or the referendum, and it failed. That referendum had nothing to do with the United Nations. Zero. Copies were not even sent to the United Nations Secretariat. Nothing. Is that similar to us? No. Quebec has a parliament in Quebec. They have an assembly of representatives and political parties. We don't have anything like in Southern Cameroon to pretend to organize a referendum. No way. So there's nothing similar to it. In fact, as far as people is even concerned, people even doubt the government in Ottawa, the federal government call it in court of Canada. They petitioned the Canadian Supreme Court to see if Quebec even has the right to secede. And the court ruled that even if they had voted yes to independence, they were not just going to walk away. That's the highest authority in Canada. So nothing is similar to Quebecois and the referendum to what most of us or some of us are asking for Southern Cameroon and Amazonia. Nothing similar. Let me take the last two that just happened. Yeah, any question? If you have a question, there you can ask.
No, go ahead, finish up.
There are two other examples which have been used by that document and many of us. They've cited Southern Sudan. Southern Sudan had a referendum, but their referendum came after on the table of negotiation. In fact, Southern Sudan have been fighting for years. They have been having several peace agreements. They have been holding conferences. But the last one they heard was what they heard in Kenya at the Nevashia. That's the town they held it. And they agreed that there will be a referendum. But that was 2005. The referendum was not going to take place in 2005. It had to take place 6 years after. But during the 6 years from that 2005 to 2011, during the 6 years, Southern Sudan had autonomy. They had the regional assembly. They had the government in Southern Sudan that prepared for this referendum, campaigned for it, set up structures, registered people that would vote in the referendum 5 years, 6 years after the agreement of Navasha in 2005. So before the referendum came in 2005, there had been preparation for 6 years with the autonomy of Southern Sudan. They had the government sitting in Southern Sudan that ruled for 6 years, prepared themselves for a referendum. Do we have such a thing in our own case? Zero. Nothing. Was it authorized by the United Nations? No. But there were international bodies. The United Nations subsequently sent a mission there, but after the referendum when there was war. They sent out a peacekeeping mission to maintain the peace in Southern Sudan, not in the whole of Sudan. So that is what happened with Southern Sudan. There's nothing similar to Southern Sudan and our case. The last one, East Timor, is something that could be similar to us. But we must understand this. Their referendum came on the peace table. How did they even get it? How did they get there? How did the United Nations get there? The United Nations got there because Indonesia, that have been fighting East Timor, wrote a letter to the United Nations inviting the United Nations to come do a referendum for East Timor. They wrote to them in writing. Indonesia is a member of the United Nations. Their petition to the United Nations was supported by Portugal, Australia, and other Asian countries. That's how the United Nations got involved there. But they didn't just get involved. When Indonesia wrote that, they have been trying to give East Timor some type of autonomy. They were convinced that they were going to win. And so the first step, the United Nations said, okay, if you want us to come and organize a referendum there, you have to withdraw your administration from Indonesia completely. And they withdrew. It was 1999. East Timor was less than almost just about 1 million people at the maximum, because today they are just 1.4 million after 20 years. And the United Nations came in, pumped in thousands of people, hundreds, polling stations, everything to organize it, to oversee the referendum. And what they did, is that similar to us? No. It is not similar to us, no way. So, again, calling for a referendum, the style of Quebec, the style of Scotland, the style of South Sudan, the style Indonesia, East Timor, is all a joke, because our case is not similar to any of those cases. And so, when the United Nations came in now, but they don't just come here, they don't just walk in. They passed a resolution. They were creating a United Nations mission in East Timor that will comprise the election department, they will comprise all types of things, government, governance, and then that's how they deploy people there. It is important to know this, because the United Nations does not have a bank that they mint money. The United Nations mission in East Timor costs a lot of money. But how do they get their money? Member countries contribute. If it's a peacekeeping force, they send the soldiers. If it's money, they contribute. Nobody is forcing them to contribute. But countries are already involved, for example, in the case of East Timor, Indonesia, Australia, Portugal. They give money because that's the process they support. And others come in. And let us cue it back to our own case. We just had the Swiss-led initiative that was supported by nations. If we had proceeded with the peace-led initiative and it went somewhere, and then we say, okay, that by that initiative, they agreed that they would do a referendum. Countries will give money. The Americans who were supporting it, the Canadians, the Germans who supported it, say, okay, we're giving so much. The money does not fall from the sky. And then let us go to the last one, which I'll say to close this. What our brothers and sisters are asking for a referendum is an internal organization to be done by Yaoundé. The type that Russia has done in Crimea. And the side that Paul Biya had promised that referendum. Paul Biya did it. But I don't know why Paul Biya is so stupid not to have done that now. He's so stupid not to have seized the opportunity and defeated us. You can call a referendum right now. And you're going to get 199% yes. Because he controls the people. The chef d'etat, the duos who control the registers, the mayors, they're all his. You can call a referendum right now and you will get 100% support for staying with them. So why do we go out of this madness? That's why I call it political suicide. We are committing suicide. We are trying to create things that don't exist. We are inventing something in our mind. Writing to the United Nations. Is the United Nations involved? It's like going to court and asking somebody that, well, you owe me a million. The guy has never said that I don't owe you anything. They say, okay, you owe me $1 million, begin to give me instrumentally. When was the case, Georgia, you're asking for instrumental payments?
Mhm.
So asking for this thing called referendum at this stage, I've always said at this stage, is political genocide. It's political, I don't know how to describe it. Those things could I've always said here that, look, those of us who sit here who don't like that referendum, but we'll come out of the table. We will come up. I will argue against it. But if we were to be there, then the conditions for doing it will be arrived at on the table with witnesses, with
Right.
the parties.
Right.
So right now, writing letters, oh, one referendum is bullshit. Because first, nobody will give you that one because they are not involved. The other person who can give a referendum at this stage is Yaoundé. And in fact, we are writing asking Yaoundé to keep their promise of a referendum. You should go down to Bamenda, go down to Manfred, organize a referendum and see if you will even get 10%. So it's political
Yeah.
suicide we are committing against ourselves by asking for that thing at this stage. So if I were those people, they should just withdraw that nonsense. To say you are copying the United Nations, you are copying the United States Congress, or that, it has no meaning. That's not what makes it
Yeah.
international. Obia can organize a referendum right now. What is international is many nations coming. They will invite France to come and be an observer. That makes it international. Just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they organized the elections. They invited their own international observers who were fake. They invited them, created their own observers. Okay, oh, I was waiting for this Bush. Our lies. They pay people to do that. So it's not enough to say you're an international observer. Something is international, not because many nations take part in it. No, the taking part in the international organizations should be something
Officially.
official. Officially.
Yeah.
All members of the world, all countries are members of the United Nations. France can say, oh yeah, I'm also a member of the United Nations. Japan can come here, I'm a member of the United Nations. China can come here, I'm an observer, I'm a member of the United Nations. That's not what makes it international, sir. Let people understand this and stop leading us to hell. Thank you. I don't know whether there's any more for you to ask.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Barrister. By the explanation you are explaining to Ambazonians, I understood that number one, Ambazonia does not stand in any position to ask for a referendum because they don't have a parliament. They are not constituted. And number two, a referendum is not done between Cameroon and Ambazonians. It is done under the other nations internationally so that it can be observed and then they give in their feedback. Because going to ask La Republique to make a referendum right now is just like saying we have surrendered. And number three, I do not know if they cancelled the plebiscite of 1961 that is still showing in the archives of the United Nations, about 64 votes to the other ones. And if the resolution in 1608 for the Ambazonian people in the UN has also been cancelled. So I don't know if you can enlighten the Ambazonian people that it is a game of ignorance on the people of Ambazonia that La Republic is trying to play a fast one by getting some of our own people who don't even know their left from right to dabble into international political affairs that they cannot define. So can you just enlighten the Ambazonians that
Yes, yes,
yeah,
I
go
will.
ahead.
The problem is this. I don't even want to put this thing on La Republique. Our people who are proposing these things are intellectuals. And some of them are the people who say they have the last word. So let me give them credit for knowing what they are doing. And then the 1961 plebiscite, which I also call a referendum, did not just come. Resolution 1352 was debated for days in New York before they even agreed on the question to put to Southern Cameroon. Now, the referendum people right now, I've asked many of them in private conversations, what question are you going to put to Ambazonians? Who has agreed on that question? Yeah, when our opponent doesn't even think there's anything called Southern Cameroon. So you're going to ask the question how? They have not even agreed that there's a problem called Southern Cameroon and them. Then you are going to tie them on the neck and say, okay, this is the question that Ambazonians should answer. So it doesn't even make sense. It is not, I don't want to, I know that they are playing their role, but I don't want to blame them. What of our own intellectuals who claim to have the last word? What I'm reading, what I'm saying is what anybody can read. It's things for public records. What is their own research? Other than just saying that, well, there was a referendum in Scotland, there was a referendum in Quebec, there was one in South Sudan, there was one in East Timor. Go and read those things. Anybody can read. Go and read those things and fight and see the difference I'm saying. Yes, it might be, maybe you're being manipulated, or maybe you just don't know because you are lazy to go and find other information. But information is out there for the public records. It's out there for the public records. To me, if you are looking for my opinion, I would say that we already had a referendum in 1961. The referendum was to ascertain our wish. It was not for, it was to ascertain our wish, whether we will get independent by joining A or B. We voted that we wanted to join B. B refused the joining. They voted no. They refused even to implement 1608 that said so. They did not refuse our independence. They refused that we will not join them. So we already have an independence resolution, a referendum passed, which was overwhelming in the majority. To me, as an individual, I will not even go for any other referendum for independence because we already had one. The problem with the 1961 plebiscite is that when they refused to implement, they refused to accept it. In 1959, they were not part of the United Nations. They didn't vote in 1352. They didn't have a vote. But the first time they had the opportunity to say something official about the joining, they said no. They said no. And again, if you look at 1608, it says many things. They will get their independence on 1st of October upon joining, then they go down. So they have already got independence. The last paragraph, paragraph 5, which is saying they should negotiate the terms, is the last one. If they don't negotiate the terms, you already had independence, but the earlier paragraph does say you get independence. That's the legal interpretation of that thing. So we cannot, to me, if you're asking me, I would not be asking for another referendum to see if we want independence. I will not be asking for a referendum to see if we want to join East Cameroon because they already refused. In 1608, they said no.
Cameroon refused.
We don't want that nonsense. We don't want these people to join us. They said no. And give them credit for this. They said no. And they said, after having said no, they could not go to implement 16085. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we are telling you, Ambazonia
Okay.
is quite a different entity from La République du Cameroon.
All right.
And
Okay.
for that reason, there is no way
Okay.
we can go for any games with La République du Cameroon because
I'm back. What's going on?
I see trouble for every corner. Oh. I see fear for every country of the world. People they dying, people they cry. This time, oh, now Jesus he reign, he reign. I answered the lady, I said, since I was born, I heard that same story. Have you seen him? Have you touched him? Have you met him? And where is he? After many words of argument all day, I saw my sin, I was ashamed. I surrender to the Savior, I surrender to the Redeemer. What about you? He's calling you. What about you? Jesus is calling you. Everybody. Sing and give glory to the Most High God. The Rock of Ages. He reigns, he reigns, he reigns. He reigns, he reigns, he reigns. Many years I've gone, I'm a new man. Many years I've gone, I'm a free man. I turn around and say thank you. I say thank you. Many years I've gone, I'm a new man.
Thank you very much. I'm very sorry for the impasse over there. We want to let you know that Ambazonians have advanced to a point that we are not going to be deceived by anybody doing anything or saying anything as far as our resolve is concerned. Now, we have heard from a legal mind and want to tell the Ambazonian people that what is presently going on now is a sham. It does not work. So Ambazonians should stay put and know that there is nothing like a referendum. Those who are writing, they're just writing out of their minds. And we want to make you to know that as Ambazonians, we will continue and we will go ahead with what we're supposed to do as Ambazonians. And so, Barrister, I want to find out from you, with this situation now, as we are actually talking and looking at, can we say that the Ambazonians are free to take a unanimous decision on their own without the getting involved with the noise that is going on outside there? And can La Republique implement? Because, Barrister, I'm thinking that most of what is going on now is as a result of a conspiracy. Because looking at your papers, are you there? Yeah, looking at the documents of the UN, we are supposed to be exactly what we are fighting for. with no fight. Why are they so conspiring to make us to get into this kind of a mess?
I think the problem is with us, and it is common. People don't know how to fight war. War is not simple. When war comes, even the best trained military guy, if you hear a bomb sound, if you see a bomb landing before them, they jump and run away because that's not what they contemplated. They join the military essentially just to get money, or in Cameroon to wear khaki and go around and drink free beer and sleep free women. They're joining because they want to fight. So when they see war, it is simple. When war comes, people don't know what to do again. They are frustrated. They are running left and right. Ambazonians, our decision, our future is in our own hands, not in the hands of the Republic, not even in the hands of the United Nations. No, the United Nations will come to support us. Other countries will come to support us only when we fight. Let me take it again back to East Timor. The East Timorese have been fighting forever. They have fought. They have fought. The Indonesian government are giving them order of autonomy, gave them the left and right. They were not happy. They were still fighting. The Indonesians did more than what they could even do. That's what they call for a referendum, thinking that they would be coerced to accept all that what they had offered them. It did not work. The South Sudanese did not start to fight in 2000. They had been fighting against the Egyptians. If you study the history of Sudan and South Sudan, they fought everywhere before the thing came. Maybe we don't know that even after they signed the Nabasha agreement, the president of Sudan, El Bashir, he continued to go there and kill people. He didn't want to respect that thing. He killed people in South Sudan. He was indicted by the ICC. But he didn't know. A sealed indictment was signed for him to be arrested. He didn't even know that because it was sealed. Until he went to South Africa, the ICC unveiled it to the Interpol. I think it was in Cape Town Airport. They came to arrest him as the president of Sudan. So he continued to fight even after signing the agreement. They came to arrest him. But the South African government found that was a terrible embarrassment, diplomatic embarrassment. They saved him. He was not being arrested, but he returned home knowing that there's a warrant hanging over his head. He died soon after that. He had a heart attack and died. So there's no journey that is simple. We have to fight, and we are fighting. If the Republic is doing all that, it is because the war is hitting them. It is because they don't know where to go to. If they can come and bribe me, not to say this, they will bribe me. If they can come and bribe you, if they can come and buy you with anything, they will do it. Again, I've always said here, the Republic has only two ways to fight a war. To fight anything that they disagree with. They either bribe you with money, bribe you with an office, or eliminate you physically. But either way, if they give you an office or money, when the temperature cools, they will kill you. They will eliminate you. That's their practice. Because they have never forgiven their enemies. They have never forgiven whoever opposes them. They have not. So they are doing all that as a subterfuge. Again, back on this referendum thing. Now, in the international community, I've said here before, has been able to identify our problems, define it better than ourselves. And they say, go and address the root causes of the problem. What do you want a referendum? Suppose we go and sit down and to address the root causes. We discover that the root cause itself was the 1961 plebiscite that should not have been there. That would have ended the matter. What do you want a referendum for? Even if that turns out to be. So, who told you that the referendum is because we were trying to join East or West Cameroon, whatever nonsense they call it there? So, we have to go to the conference table sooner or later. But before they get to the conference table, they don't go to the conference table because they like it. Indonesia did not go because they liked it. Southern Sudan did not go because they liked it. They went there. These are two instances that are similar to ours. Because the war was eating hard on them. They went there unwillingly. And we will force Yaoundé, we will put a rope on their neck and drag them to that conference table. by the actions we take on the ground, by how we hurt them, how they feel the pain of this occupation. That's the only way out. They are not going to walk there in limousines. Yes, they have all the equipment. They were 20 years ago, the president of Equatorial Guinea did not even have a helicopter. They used to fly presidential planes from Yaoundé to go and carry him. Today is powerful. He's chasing out everybody. Even Cameroonians to driving them away from their tiny Equatorial Guinea because they have the muscle. Yaoundé is begging them. So again, Yaoundé can say anything. Yeah, the international community is very much aware of our case. Let me just put the international community at large. But if you take the individual organs that make the international community, the African Union, do they know it? Yes. Communication 266 is there. It is an issue of the African Union. What did he say? Before that thing, communication 266, ever goes out as a communication, the heads of states have to meet and approve it. That case dealt with almost everything that we have gone through as Ambazonia. The African Union signed up to it by approving communication 266. If you read it, you say after the meeting of the heads of state and approval on this date, they publish it. They are aware of it, but we have to push further. The United Nations is aware of it. That's why they supported the Swiss-led initiative. They are aware of this. France is aware of it. That's why they want to take our property. They think that these people are becoming intelligent. They know what they are doing. They are aware of that. The British know it. But we have to push harder. We have to make them swallow the bitter pill. The pill of disgrace, if we are not giving them anything. The bitter pill of unveiling what the British did, or which they don't want it to be public. The bitter pill of what France did by coming even to explore our oil without our authority. They signed the agreement in 1959. What nothing to do with that agreement? We were not part of it. If we were, for example, in Scotland or Quebec, they would not have right to come there and exploit our oil. If we had that of union like Quebec or like Scotland, they would not have, their agreement would not have extended to our own territory. They know that fact. They know that. Legally, they know that they have the best lawyers. They have better lawyers than us. So, again, I think we're on the right track. Any other thing is a distraction. But from time to time, when the distraction comes up, I think we have the responsibility, as we're doing now, to explain to our brothers and sisters who might be misled, who are being misled,
Okay.
for whatever reason. That's our role. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Barrister, the last question for this program before you go back to your duty. Do you think that the games that France is playing with La Republique on us, and now some of our people are the ones that are trying to facilitate, like the kind of thing you're saying that Chris Arno wrote and is putting it out there in the public? Do you think that these our people are very normal? Going back to look at what they were talking before and what they are talking now, do you think that they are still very sincere for us to go back to Boya, our hometown, or something is definitely wrong? And if something is wrong, what can you tell us and tell the Ambazonian people? Because as a spiritual person, I equate it to spirituality. That, and then as an African, I equate it to the money that girl picked and chopped and died. So I am putting these two things together, that there is something definitely wrong with our people who came out and they were very frank and sincere and serious for us to go to Boya. And today, the Swiss that everybody was for, they were against, because La Republique was again playing games. Now, at the end of the day, they came up with their own purported conference in Canada, and La Republique said go. And now they are hanging around the corridors of what Canada is saying and the documents that are coming out and so on and so forth. What can you tell the Ambazonian people to be very careful and to stay put with the interim government's plans and decisions, and any other person who is very serious to go to Boya? Over to you.
This is what is going on. To be fair to Chris Anu, I'm not sure that he wrote that thing. We have Ambazonians who have said earlier, we think that they know everything. And there are people who support Anu or other factions. And there are so many. I'll give Anu as an example, and enjoy Yaba, who don't do anything, but they want that the world should think that they are doing something. This is happening in Canada. What do we do? Let us also put out something. They put it there. And Mr. Anu, whether president or comrade, whatever thing he signs and put it out there. It's not from him. There are so many people like that. Take again, ADF, Choyaba and Easton. They don't fight any war, but anything happens, they come and put a video, say, whoa, who did this? They want to be seen as doing something. They want to be in the line of people who are doing something. They know that they never fought any war. They know that they never killed A or B or C, but they will be the first people to make an audio because they think that they can remain relevant by putting out that audio. For example, if Christiano had not put out that document out there, we will not be debating here. We will not be having this debate. The idea of a referendum has been floating around there by so many people, but nobody ever put it down on some purported letterhead to be the position of so-called government. So it is a distraction to remain relevant. That's the basic part of it. Written by some people who have some influence over the poor Anu. May he refresh his intelligence. He doesn't know those things. That's a fact. I'm not insulting him. I'm not sure that he's ever read these things. He doesn't know them. You see, when something comes out, you see people come out and put out something. I think a few days ago, I listened to an audio produced by somebody purportedly acting, well, the spokesman for the Restoration Council. I was talking about a constitution. What did he say? He said, no, all laws are not written in the constitution. They said, where is the COVID law written in the American Constitution? How stupid does this sound like? Okay. That man too was going to be a lawyer too. They was trying to justify whatever action. They said, no, I'm not saying this to say Christian who was not elected or that he did not win the election. Because the issue was, where are the elections found in the Constitution? He said, no, not all laws are found there. Even in America, the COVID law is not found in the American Constitution. The word of mask, in fact, that's what he said. So, what people want to be relevant, and in this era where anybody can make an audio, can make a video, can make anything, and some people will follow it and think it for truth. We have so many followers of Mr. Anu. And that's why we're addressing this issue. They will go and say, no, Anu has asked for a referendum. Oh, our president has asked for a referendum. We don't know what they're talking about anyway. So, expect those things to come up. But we have to stay fast, stay where we are, until death do us part. Again, I've said before I started this discussion, if anybody has contrary facts, contrary law, let them prove me wrong on Quebec, on Scotland, on the Crimea, on the Scotland, and all those things. Those are the ones who have cited as examples, citing from them, from their own document. If any other expert has something to the contrary to what I've said, let them put it out to educate Ambazonians. I'm not in the habit of jumping up to making audios that have no meaning. But again, if this is my last speech, this is my last statement. Any Ambazonian falling for a referendum at this stage is committing political genocide. It's a suicidal attempt to kill this revolution. Because you're calling on Yaoundé to organize a referendum the criminal Russian style and give us a result. That is suicide in this struggle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister, for coming in to enlighten the Ambazonian people of some of the people who are behind the scenes deceiving some other people who feel that they are very bold and they can talk to anybody anyhow. We are in the 21st century and we recognize all those gimmicks and those games. Ambazonians, listen, we have a position, and our position is that La République du Cameroon was never from the onset a part of Ambazonia and cannot be a part of Ambazonia. There was no union treaty with the United Nations joining and binding us to the Republic of Cameroon. We went in there voluntarily, tried to stay with them. 60 years plus have passed, and we have discovered that we cannot stay with them. Pa Michael said yesterday that for La République du Cameroon and the former British Southern Cameroons, now Ambazonia, to stay together, it would just be like a lion or a goat given to be a shepherd over the lion, or a lion sent to go and take care of sheep. That is the statement. We cannot stay with La République du Cameroon, and the end has come. The path we have taken, since United Nations and the other nations that know exactly what happened have decided to play the game that they have played, will go the way of all the earth. America stood up, fought, some people died. Eritrea that they are quoting, fought, some people died. Sudan that they are quoting, fought, some people died. Eventually, they came up to have their nations. West Timor, or whatever name you call it, fought, and so many of them. Even where I am, the country I am, they fought before they stay where they are. Ambazonians, fasten your seatbelts. We are going towards the end. The method of La République have been exhausted. They don't have no other tricks again. And what our brothers are trying to do, they are selling after the market, because our resolve to go back to our restored independence of 1961 is a sure thing. It must happen. And with that note, I want to thank you, Barrister, and we would like to have you give us a promise that when we have some critical issues like this, you will come back to our Amba history to give us enlightenment. Is that that call accepted?
Thank you. I've always said I will always be available until death does us part. Again,
Thank you very much.
in summary, brothers and sisters, stop saying that you want a referendum because it has been tried and tested. It has never been tried and tested in our own similar case. Abandon that idea. Learn from what you did not know. Correct yourself where you go wrong. Again, it's political suicide we're committing by asking a referendum again at this stage, at this time. No. Stop it. Talk different things. If you really want independence, talk different things. When they come to the table, which will come sooner or later, or everything will be on the table, including your so-called referendum. But for now, abandon it, fight the war. It is all the fighting that will lead even your opponent to call a referendum. If you're not fighting, just sitting in your house, call a referendum. Why will he call the referendum? Why? If he's taking everything from you, you're not fighting him. If you make audios, make your audios. We are so many audio makers. Again, I've used this opportunity. Mr. Mba Akuro, stop making audios. Go to the ground and lead the unity force that you say. Go and stand there for 3 days and fight as a unity force commander and see if you come back here. Anyway, you ran away when you were not even fighting. But now you want others to form some group and call it unity force and go and fight while you're hiding somewhere writing some audios and posting nonsense. If it's so good, go home, Lead the unity force and fight the enemy. Be the commander general. We'll call you general. We'll answer you, sir. We'll answer you, excellency, which some people don't like, but we will do that if you go back to the ground, you're fighting from there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So all facilitators to make La Republic dominate us again, we have bad news for you. You have failed because he reigns in our land, and we will fight till we get back our land. God bless you and have a wonderful day.
Took me, the world swallowed me.